Outcome 11.4, Lesson 8, Converting between metric and imperial units. When we're converting between metric and imperial, the conversion is the same process as when we are converting within systems of measurement. So let's start with changing inches to centimeters. If we're asked to change 5 inches into centimeters, we're going to set up our proportion, 5 inches, and I want to figure out how many centimeters that's going to be. On the other side, we need a conversion factor. And from the top of the page, we can see that 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters. When we cross multiply, we can find that x will be equal to 5 times that conversion factor. When we multiply 5 times 2.54, we end up with x being 12.7. So 5 inches is 12.7 centimeters. If we're going the other way and we are changing 24 centimeters into inches, so we want to know how many inches. This time centimeters are on the top of our proportion and inches are on the bottom. We're going to use the same conversion factor, but this time the 1 inch is in the bottom and 2.54 centimeters is in the top. When we cross multiply, we end up with 2.54x equals 24. And so we are going to end up dividing 24 by the conversion factor of 2.54. X is then equal to 9.45 inches. We are changing from yards to meters. Here's our conversion factor. So 6 yards, and I want to know how many meters that is going to be. Yards are on the top, meters on the bottom. So 1 meter is 1.09 yards. Multiplying, cross multiplying gives me 1.09x equals 6. So I'm going to have to divide 6 by 1.09. Gives me x being 5.5 meters. Now all of these values are approximate because these conversion factors are also approximate. 8.4 meters, and I want to change that into yards. On the other side, meters in the top, yards in the bottom. Our conversion factor says that 1 meter is 1.09 yards. Cross multiplying gives me x equals 8.4 times that conversion factor. So when we multiply 8.4 times 1.09, we end up with x being 9.16. So 8.4 meters is 9.16 yards. The last set that we're going to look at is miles to kilometers. So our conversion factor is this one down on the bottom. If I have 52 miles and I want to change that into kilometers, miles are going to be on the top, kilometers on the bottom. Our conversion factor is that 1 mile is 1.61 kilometers. When we cross multiply, we end up with 52 times the conversion factor. So 52 times 1.61 gives me x being 83.72. So 52 miles is about 83.72 kilometers. Going the other way, 26 kilometers, and I want to figure out how many miles this is. So this time kilometers are on the top, miles are on the bottom. Our conversion factor is still 1 mile is 1.61 kilometers. This time when we cross multiply, we see that we are going to end up dividing 26 by the conversion factor. So 26 divided by 1.61 gives me 16.15. So 26 kilometers is 16.15 miles. Here are some conversions for you to try. So you might want to pause the video and go through the conversions. Your answers should be this. When we're converting area, we need to remember that because our units are squared, we also need to square the conversion factor. So I have 4 inches squared, and I want to know how many square centimeters that is. I want to know how many square centimeters that works out to. Sorry about the interruption. So if we are converting 4 square inches and we want to figure out how many square centimeters it is, we need to set up the proportion the same way. So on the other side, I need inches on the top and centimeters on the bottom. Our conversion factor says that 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters. But because we are dealing with squared units, we need to square that side of our proportion. And so when we cross multiply, we end up with x times 1, or x, and 4 times 2.54 squared. When we multiply that out, 2.54 squared times 4 gives me x being 25.81 centimeters squared. If we are doing 85 centimeters squared, and we are changing that into square inches. Sorry, that should be an equal sign. On the opposite side of the equal sign, we need our conversion factor, centimeters in the top, inches in the bottom. 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters, and then we need to square that for our conversion factor. So we end up with x times 2.54 squared equals 85. Dividing by 2.54 squared gives us x equals 85 divided by 2.54 squared, or 2.54 twice. And when we divide that out, we end up with 13.18. Our next conversion factor is 15 square miles. And we want to figure out how many square kilometers this is. The conversion factor for miles to kilometers is that 1 mile is 1.61 kilometers, but because we're dealing with area, we need to square those units. So we end up with x being equal to 15 times 1.61 squared. 15 times 1.61 squared gives me 38.89. So 15 square miles is equivalent to 38.89 square kilometers. Going the other direction, 65 square kilometers, and we want to figure out how many square miles that is. Our conversion factor, kilometers have to be on the top, miles on the bottom, is that 1 mile is 1.61 kilometers. Again, because this is an area conversion, we have to square the area conversion factor. So we end up with x times 1.61 squared equals 65. If we are dividing both sides then by 1.61 squared, we have 65 over 1.61 squared. Dividing that out, 65 divided by the conversion factor squared gives me 25.08 square miles. Please complete all of practice number 4.